So hi everyone, my name's Aidan O'Connell and I'm a Client Solutions Manager at Facebook in Dublin. And I'm working on the e-commerce team, so I'm currently working with clients like Mojave and Deliveroo. So at this stage, most of you probably put lots of time and money and effort into developing your apps. And the next stage is really getting it out there onto the right people's devices. So I'm going to be talking about how Facebook can help you do this. The main challenge you're going to face at this point is distribution. So for this reason, there's over 4 million apps in the App Store, so it's insanely crowded and competitive. So how will people discover your app? And not just anyone, you want the right people to find your app. People who aren't just going to install, but the people who are going to take action within your app and take the actions that are actually going to grow your business. So the good news is that Facebook can help with this. Obviously, there's two ways you can get downloads. There's paid and organic. And organic are downloads you get through non-paid channels. So first, I'm going to discuss some of the tools you can use to get organic distribution on Facebook. One of the key drivers of organic downloads is word of mouth. So in general, people want to be using the same apps their friends are using, playing the same games their friends are playing. I always like to be using the same music streaming apps most of my friends are using so we can share tracks and playlists really easily. And I think in general, when someone recommends an app to a friend, they're going to go ahead and download it. And there's a couple of ways you can facilitate this word of mouth type sharing through Facebook, primarily through Facebook pages and then also through our sharing tools. But before we jump into the tools, I think it's really important to first think about the moments within your app that would encourage people to share, sort of share-worthy moments. So why do people share? They share to express themselves, to maintain relationships, to help people, to inform them, to inspire them, to make them laugh. So I think it's important to look at your apps and try find the moments within your app that tap into these motivations, and then start thinking about where to put the sharing functionality. So yeah, really first try to identify the share-worthy moments, and then you can start thinking about where to put the buttons. So firstly, let's look at this example from Product Hunt. Obviously, the main content of their site are the products people submit, and they've got sharing functionality there. But they were looking for some more share-worthy moments, and they found that there was lots of really rich discussion going on in the comment section of their site. So they decided to implement quote sharing functionality there, which we just announced at F8 recently. So we also announced a couple of other improvements to our sharing functionality at F8. So in the past, when you try to share from an app, we'd actually send people back to Facebook, whereas now we're just going to pop up this really clean and quick dialogue within the context they're in, so they're not going to leave your app. And then they'll get a really clean preview of what they're about to share, and they can also add a comment as well. We've added the ability to add photos and videos as well. And then we've also added the ability to tag people, to share how you're feeling, to tag a location. And then also you've got full privacy controls within the sharing dialogue. So all the usual stuff people expect when they're composing a post on Facebook. That's all brand new to sharing now. And you can just see in the last screenshot there, that's actually what a share from the Product Hunt comments section might look like. So you've got the comment, you've got a big link back to site, and then the person can also add whatever else they want there too. However, in many cases, people don't really want to share like something directly back to their newsfeed because it might not be relevant for everyone. And for this, we've implemented small group sharing. So if you have the Facebook SDK implemented, you can drop a send to messenger button in there. And if someone clicks this, what will happen is they'll tap here and then they'll be presented with this dialogue where they can select one friend, they can select multiple friends, or if they've got any groups set up, they can also send the content directly to a group of friends. I know I've got a group of Messenger set up, friends who just play video games, and I can sort of send them all the nerdy game reviews and news there instead of spamming everyone my newsfeed with it. So it's really important to give people the option to share something back to newsfeed and also share it just to Messenger with a small group of friends. And you can implement all this functionality in what we call the share tray really, really easily if you have the Facebook SDK in there. So these are some examples of how you can drive organic distribution on Facebook. But unfortunately, organic distribution will only get you so far. And if you really want to achieve true scale, at some stage you're going to have to start investing. And that brings us on to paid downloads. And the good news is that this is something Facebook is really, really good at delivering on, primarily because you have scale. And I'm sure you've seen these numbers a couple of times today. almost 1.8 billion people using Facebook each month, and almost 500 million using Instagram each month. And we've got a range of tools and products that will allow you to reach the people that you really care about within this audience. So moving on to ads then. So to run a successful app ad campaign on Facebook, it isn't really different from other digital marketing channels. You need to find the right people, you need to engage them with good creative, and then you need to constantly analyze and optimize results. But what does set Facebook apart is the advanced tools and options we have in each of these areas. So first, let's look at targeting. So there are a couple of options here when it comes to targeting. You can target people by demographics, so that's just age and gender. You can target people by the interests they have, so the various pages they like on Facebook, or their behaviors on or off Facebook. And there's a couple of really interesting options within behaviors for app developers. So you can target people by mobile device. You can also target them by mobile operating system. And you can also target them by network connection, so whether they're connected on 2G, 3G, 4G, etc. One use case for connection targeting, if you've got quite a large app, so if it's over 50 megabytes, you might want to use Wi-Fi targeting, particularly in an area where there's low 4G penetration. And what we've generally found as well is if people are connected on Wi-Fi, they're either at home or they're at work. So they're more likely to be in the mood to download apps. Otherwise, they might be commuting or busy, for example. An example of when you might use device targeting. So I was working with a gaming client in the past, and they wanted to expand their marketing beyond Tier 1 countries. But they were a little bit concerned about the value of the users they would get in sort of Tier 2 and Tier 3 countries. So what they decided to do is only target users with high-end smartphones in these markets. And what they found was it really, really worked. So the volume was quite low, but the value of the customers they found using this targeting was really, really high. So it's definitely worth testing as well. You can target people by location, obviously, so you can go from global targeting to country, to city, to postcode, or you can simply just drop a pin and say, I want to target people within a 5, 10, 50-kilometer radius. And then finally, you can use custom and lookalike audiences, and these are really our most powerful targeting tools. What custom audiences really let you do is target existing customers on Facebook. And you can create custom audiences by uploading a list of email addresses, for example. If you have the Facebook SDK installed, you can create a custom audience of people who've installed your app, custom audience of people who've taken certain actions within your app within a certain time frame. Or if you've got an e-commerce site, or any website really, and you've got the Facebook pixel in there, you can also create custom audiences from Facebook pixel activity. And like a use case of custom audiences, so say you're an e-commerce site and you just launched a brand new app, you really want to make sure that all your existing customers on web also have your app. So you could create a custom audience of all existing customers and then target those people with ads to install your new app. And then finally, moving on to lookalike audiences. What lookalike audiences let you do is find people that look similar to your existing customers. So to go back to an e-commerce example, you might create a custom audience of existing high-value customers and then use that to create a lookalike audience. And what we'll then give you is a list of people who are really similar to your existing high-value customers, either demographically or behaviorally, across a range of different dimensions. And it's definitely our most effective tool for finding new high-value customers. When I work with my clients and they're sort of in acquisition mode, they'll generally spend at least 70% of their budgets using lookalike audiences. So definitely the most powerful acquisition tool we have. So at this stage, you know the audience you want to target. The next thing to think about is what you actually want to optimize your campaigns for. At the most basic level, you can just optimize for clicks, and we really don't recommend this because we've no insight into whether these clicks turns into installs. And if you tell us you want clicks, we could just give you tons and tons of clicks. And on Facebook, there's a lot of clickers, and they might not actually take the action you care about. So what you really, really need to do is put the SDK in there, and that'll allow you to actually optimize for installs. And a key thing to remember here is that Facebook only reports an install when the app has been downloaded and launched for the first time. However, if you want to get a little bit more advanced and a little bit more efficient with your spend, you can actually optimize for in-app actions. So again, you have the Facebook SDK in there, and then you implement app events. You can optimize for specific actions within the app instead of just an install, which really, in most cases, isn't worth anything to you. So again, to use an e-commerce example, you could optimize for an add to cart, or you could optimize for a registration, or even a purchase. So definitely recommend leaning towards installs, and if possible, optimizing for specific in-app actions to drive the best efficiency. So now you have your audience. We know what we're going to optimize for. So the next stage to think about is creative. And there's lots of great options on Facebook for showcasing really good quality creative. And it's really important that you sort of test everything here. Because if you're only using ads that have a static image, you're missing out on lots of opportunities to basically drive greater efficiencies and lower cost per clicks, higher click-through rates, for example. So the first thing we'll look at is video. And here's an example from an app developer. I think a lot of developers and advertisers in general shy away from video a little bit because it can be expensive to produce and it can be time consuming. But there's lots of ways you can produce video really, really cheaply. At the most basic level, you could just use like screen capture software and just record, exciting moments within your app. There's actually functionality on Facebook built into the ad creation flow where you can select a number of images and we'll actually stitch them together and create a video for you. And there's also just tons of really great video content apps out there. So you can just download stuff and shoot stuff on your smartphone, and it's really high quality, and there's no reason you can't do that. There's no need to work with production companies, etc. If you are using video on Facebook, there's a couple of things to keep in mind. Try keep it short. We've seen 10 to 15 seconds works best. Definitely optimize it for a sound off viewing, so make sure that the key messages come across without sound, and if you do have sound or voiceover, use subtitles. And it's also important to front load all the important information, because I'm sure you've experienced it yourself. You just swipe through your newsfeed really, really quickly. So it's important that you get all the exciting stuff, the important messaging up front. So if someone doesn't watch through all the way to the end, you've still got your message across. I think we've seen ads that use video can have like up to an 80% better click-through rate, so definitely worth testing that. The next format is carousel, and what carousel simply lets you do is showcase multiple images or multiple features within one ad unit. So here's a quick example from my client Deliveroo. So you can see here they're just showing the different burgers available at Byron. This example, I took a screen capture myself. It said open app because I already had the app installed. However, if you're running an app campaign and you've got the Facebook SDK in there, it will automatically exclude anyone who's installed the app, so that generally wouldn't happen. We've seen some people get creative with it, where they'll actually separate an image out over multiple tiles. Some people like to tell a story from tile to tile. There's tons of stuff you can do with it, but again, just really worth testing, because we've seen that this format can have an up to 50% lower cost per click than just a static image. And then finally, well, not finally, there's one more after this, Canvas. So this is one of our newer ad formats. I'll just play this example from Google. But what it is, it's a full-screen immersive advertising experience. So here's something Google created to showcase the new Pixel phone. So you can see you can have photo, video, sound, and when people get to the very end, you can send them off-site then. So in this case, Google have sent people to a site where they can find out more about the Pixel phone. In your case, you might send them straight to the App Store. Or you also have the option of having a static button at the bottom, so no matter where they are within the unit, they can always just jump straight to the App Store. It looks pretty complicated to create, but it's actually really, really easy. It's literally drag and drop within what we call the Canvas Composer. All you need to do is get all your creative assets ready beforehand, and then just drag and drop them in, and it's super simple. If you go to canvas.fb.com, you can find more information about how to create it. And there's also a group on Facebook you should check out. It's called Canvas Examples. And just check it out on your mobile, because obviously these don't work on desktop, and there's like hundreds of examples from different companies in there if you want to find out more. And then finally onto catalog. So this is really only applicable if you're using dynamic ads on your website. So this company, for example, say I would have browsed their website. I would have looked at this product, and then when I come back to Facebook, they can dynamically insert that product into an app install ad. and just makes it hyper relevant, and it sort of automates the whole creative process. And we've seen like massive reductions in cost per install when clients use this. But again, it's only really relevant to people who are using to e-commerce sites who have dynamic ads set up. So we've got your targeting, we know what we're optimizing for, we've got our creative, and we've run our campaigns. So the next step is to analyze performance. And this is pretty self-explanatory. There's nothing new here, and I'm sure it's something you're already all doing within your app. But it's just all about constantly experimenting and testing and finding out where you can drive greater efficiencies. But we've got some really great tools that allow you to do this. On the ad side, we've got Facebook Ads Manager, and here you'll find all the the usual metrics you'll expect. So cost per install, click-through rate, cost per click, but you can get some really cool breakdowns on your performance. So you can break down performance by gender, by age, by location, by device. So say you want to break out performance by device, and you see you're getting a really high cost per install on a certain device, you can exclude that then from your next campaigns. Same with demographics. If you're getting a really high cost per install on females 50 plus, you can then narrow your age range and try to drive greater efficiencies there for your next campaigns. You can also see a metric, what's called relevancy score. And this just gives you an idea of how people are reacting to your creative, well, just to the creative only. So it'll take into account like X-outs and that sort of thing. So if you basically just want to aim for a really high relevancy score, and you can find it within Ads Manager. On the app side, you've probably seen lots about this today already, but we've got Facebook Analytics for apps, where you can just understand what people are doing within your app, and then you can get all the usual demographic breakdowns as well. So if you have app events set up, and you're pinging back purchase information and conversion value, and you can see that certain age ranges are bringing the most value, you can use that to inform your advertising campaigns. Using app events as well, you can also go get a really clear view of your funnel. You can find out where people are dropping out, so you can use that to optimize the customer journey. And you can also use this information to start making like UX decisions. So it's a really, really powerful tool, and completely free as well, so definitely worth implementing. So just to recap, 3 pillars: you've got to find the right audience, engage them, and then constantly analyze and optimize. And this is the steps to success here. And if you remember nothing else from this presentation, or do nothing else that I've spoken about, just do this. Just put the SDK in your app. It's literally the key to unlocking everything else I've spoken about. If you try to run app install campaigns on Facebook without the SDK, it's going to be almost a waste of money, because all you're going to be able to do is bid for clicks, and we've no insight into whether they're turning into installs. So this should really be the first thing you need to do. Choose appropriate targeting, and most importantly, use custom and lookalike audiences, like super powerful tools. Test all our different ad formats: video, carousel, canvas, to see which drives the best results, and then constantly measure campaign performance, analyze, and optimize. So that's pretty much it. You can find more information here. If anyone has questions now, I'm happy to answer them. I'm also going to be hanging around for a couple of hours later. I think I've got to leave it there. But I'll be hanging around after, so feel free to come and grab me.